Hey, Chris, good to see you.
Hey, Emily, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. So, for those of you listening, Chris and I have had a couple of minutes to chat, but really we haven't worked closely together. And you have immense experience in an area where I don't. So I'm hoping to learn a lot from you. So I've placed, a good handful of people in business ownership, but I have never place someone in a food related business.
Yeah.
And that is where you have expertise. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, you know what? You're very kind with your words there. I think a lot of what I've learned maybe more what not to do again than what to do again. But I think that's the way of our paths here. I started as a franchisee about 21 years ago in a food business, in a food related business. And prior to that, I had maybe 10 years of food experience anyway. I worked with some of the best people in the industry. Wolfgang Puck was one of those people. It was an amazing experience. And what prompted me to get into franchising was I was working like 90 hours a week. And the quality of life was just out the window. And so I was introduced to a broker, and they walked me through a process and gave me a lot of direction about things that I might be interested in based on some profile things that we did. And it was really helpful for me to understand me better. And so I jumped into a food business and as a master franchisee. And so I had all these different responsibilities. I never would have been hired for that job. There's just no way. I had a lot of operational experience,
Okay.
I did. But I really, as far as real estate was concerned and construction and things like that, I think at the time I'd flipped a few houses or something like that. So I kind of knew my way around processes, but I was a little bit of a jack of all trades, jumped in, we were very successful. And what I found out though was I really loved the part where I was walking through processes with candidates. I loved, introducing them to things that I had experienced and bringing them over here. And it was a really cool experience for me. And that part of my business just started to grow. I was very successful in that franchise system. And I guess word got out or something like that. And I started working with other people and developing relationships. And so I started working with other brands, specifically food brands, specifically emerging growth brands. So we would bring them in, they'd be very young, and then we'd bring them to a certain level of success and then, hand them off to the people that loved working with mature brands. And that's great too. So that's one of the paths that led me here to Chicken Cone. It's a new sort of innovative brand based on an old concept, 75, 80 years old, chicken and waffles. And Jonathan Almanzar and Josh Lanier sort of gave it legs and just made it, fork-free chicken and waffles. It's a really cool concept today. People, sort of tout it as street food. And that's a really attractive kind of concept too. And so
Right. I mean, who saw that coming 20 years ago?
Right.
But
Right.
I think, and I may be taking pride in something that's not factual, but so I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I currently live in Oregon, and Oregon's Portland, Seattle, Pacific Northwest, West. I mean, we are foodies, and
Yeah.
I think that food trucks, like where you get like a whole bunch of food trucks, and that's like the thing. I
Yeah.
think that originated in Portland. I could be wrong.
It is.
But if anybody is still listening, let me just be straight. My concern is that people are gonna turn this off prematurely because we said the 4-letter word food.
Right.
So people, probably myself included, have had some preconceived notions like, oh yeah, I'd love to own a business, but not food.
Yeah.
Uh, what might you say to people that have ruled that out, perhaps prematurely? Like what makes, for example, chicken cone maybe something worth considering?
So, okay. So I'm going to start.
Put you on the spot, clearly.
No, it's great. So I'll go down one path and then I'll elaborate a little bit too, because I
Okay.
think it's really, food as a concept, sometimes that scares people away anyway. They think complexity, they think a lot of staff, a lot of moving parts, a lot of, bells and whistles. that's one of the key reasons why we've been so successful, has been our simplicity, has been just, not only the simplicity of the menu, but the simplicity of the operating system, simplicity and versatility of the spaces that we go into. Our first bricks and mortar location was a 300 square foot space in New York City. And so, and it's tremendously successful. It did $580,000 in sales in its first year with a 20% profit. And from a numbers perspective, that's a pretty solid, performance by a model. We did, and I'm backing up a half step, we did start out as a food truck. We started out as a mobile unit. We did that for about 2.5 years. Jonathan and Josh developed the system to be an absentee model, right? So that was going to be something that was going to free them up to participate with their families. They're serial entrepreneurs. They've been in businesses their whole lives that they've generated and created really cool, creative businesses too. Very successful, both of them. And just men with really great, just great personalities, really strong hearts. They're doing it for the right reasons. And so it was really easy in our process, it's really easy to introduce candidates to them, because as soon as they do, it's they're sort of an every person's person. And so they're very welcoming, they're very kind, and they're very understanding. They understand kind of where people are coming from. It takes a lot, like you said, food. It takes a lot for people to accept that, wow, okay, not only is this food, but this is something that I could do. This is something that even I can do. Everybody thinks that they can cook to a certain degree. Some people do. I don't know. But it's chicken and waffles, and everything is made fresh. Everything's made right there. But it's simple. That's all it is. It's a breast of chicken. It's panko breaded. It's lightly fried. And in most cases these days, it's air fried. So we've added this sort of healthy component to it, which lightens literally the caloric intake, but it also lightens the economic impact on the model. You don't have to build out. You don't have to have a hood for that when you're doing the build out, nor do you have to have, the added expense of oil to cook. And that's about $1,500 to $1,800 a month to cook and dispose of. Yeah. So it gets a little costly, and we're able to save that. So, we're a lean model already, but we're consistently and constantly driving towards, efficiency. And I think that's really cool. I think that on the thing that I wanted to sort of go down the other path is kind of what we're all walking through right now, even the COVID thing, that food is even a crazier sort of 4-letter word too, and people,
Right.
I think
I'm so glad you brought that up, because it seems, if somebody had told me, a month ago, yeah, Emily, you're going to focus on a food related business during COVID,
right.
I would have said I would never do something like that.
It's,
but I'm hearing some things that.
Well, because it's a lean model, it's an attractive model anyway, just in normal regular times. But what happened was, and we all know this because we've all walked through it, our patterns changed. The way we eat food, if we go out, how we go out, right? And that really fed into our model. Exactly. The curbside delivery, or curbside and the delivery, they're two really strong components of our model anyway. And so our performance has actually improved tremendously since the beginning of COVID. And that's something, I'll be honest with you, that's something we didn't anticipate. I don't think anyone knew what was going to happen with this whole thing anyway, but our models have actually improved. And so I think it's sort of given people an air or a sense of confidence about opening, about continuing forward. We've signed leases, we've recruited new candidates or new franchisees, we've begun construction, we've completed construction, we've opened locations, all in the midst of what we're walking through right now, successfully, and the same, if not even better, results than we've had before. And so, for people who might be listening to this, there might be this thought of, okay, I don't see how that's possible. But when you think about how we've changed and how our patterns have changed, and you think about, how we get the food, and you think about a business that delivers that or produces that method of delivery and curbside service very well, very seamlessly, if you will, it really makes sense. And it's one of the key things about our model is it's a really low barrier to entry, especially for food. It's between $100,000 to $150,000 to get into a model. I know, but that's it. The equipment package is really low. A lot of what we do. So we're a social media darling. I don't know if you've caught us on Instagram or anything like that. We have had such they talk about pull marketing or pull attraction. There's stuff that we can do to impose ourselves on others, and we really haven't had to do that. But there's stuff where our customers, our guests, they'll log into, or I mean, not log into. I'm dating myself here. They'll message us. They'll like us. They'll add comments to our Instagram page saying, when are you coming to us? When are you going to make your way to our community? And we get that constantly. We just signed a lease in Austin, Texas. And then we've got a couple of locations in Houston, and we're working on right now a location in Dallas. So there's a lot of momentum and a lot of activity that's going on, particularly in Texas, as well as other parts of the country too. But that particular instance, we got bombarded with people from Austin and bombarded with people from Dallas and Houston, and they were just, when are you coming to our community? So that's a really strong component to have for a model is, when your guests are really pulling for you to win, that's a pretty incredible feeling. It's also really cool when the franchisee's chicken cone becomes their chicken cone. Like, this is my chicken cone. And so it's kind of a neat feeling. So.
Well, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And I know we talked to have some visuals, and thank you. You asked if you could provide some numbers, and I think
pleasure. Absolutely.
People love to see the numbers.
Yes.
So,
no, I'm glad you said that. I got talking and I kind of got into it, but so this is our menu. This is the simplicity of our menu. We have,
wait, this is the entire menu?
This is it. This is the menu. And we have, so what we do, and we talked a little bit about this before, but what we do when we introduce a new menu or a new item to the menu, we introduce it through social media. So we'll launch it as like to remember back in the day, Starbucks would introduce things through sort of a secret menu type of things, and my kids would go into Starbucks and they thought they were rock stars because they knew what
right.
So we've taken a bit of that approach. We launch it as an off the menu item, as a 1 week only, 1 month only, this month flavor of the month kind of thing. You'll see a picture of one of them in just a second, but we introduce those off the menu items and we're able to track them. We know the length of the promotion. We know who's dialing into it, because when they come into the store, the only way they find out about it is through social media. And so it's a really cool concept.
Well, it kind of reminds me, of In-N-Out, that has a huge following, simple menu. And when you were saying that, I was like, well, I order my In-N-Out animal style, and that's not on the menu, but I feel kind of cool when I order it because it's not on the menu and I know about it.
And us people on the East Coast who have experienced In-N-Out, we are lobbying hard for them to come to the East Coast too.
Okay.
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying too.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the feeling. And so we do chicken cone, we do chicken and waffles really well. We focus on that. We have amazing fries. We offer a chicken sandwich for those people who aren't quite ready to jump in the deep end of the pool, so to speak. But we get a lot of groups. We get 5-10 people that come in, and not all of them want chicken and waffles. They want to eat with their friends or family or whatever eating. So we've provided that as an item, as an add-on item, and it's really popular too. It's actually it's almost like a lobster roll split in the middle with the same chicken. So as far as an operating system is concerned, it doesn't throw a wrench in the works. Like if you change something, used to be at least in a place like McDonald's, and you ask something for a special order, it would just gum up the works, and it would take 15 minutes to get a simple, cheeseburger without pickles. And so now this is just a very seamless way operationally for someone to come in. They can order a chicken sandwich and it's done. That's the other thing too. Today we try to, the typical person walks up to a counter at our restaurants, and they'll order their chicken cone, They will pay for their chicken cone. They will step to the side, and quite often, within 1 to 2 minutes, their chicken cone is delivered to them. It's made fresh. It's made right in front of them. And the first thing they do is they either take a selfie or they take a picture of it and they post it. And that's the experience.
So they're advertising for you.
They're advertising for us, exactly. And
wow.
it's that's what our aim is, to produce that experience for them. And it's it's a little, maybe a little self-serving. It's not intended to be that, but it does give us a sort of a high mark to aim for, right? To hit. And so that but what they get is, see, the customer or consumer will walk up and they'll order their chicken cone, and they get to choose one of these 6 sauces. And one of these 6 sauces is, the franchisee ties in a couple of these sauces to their local community. The barbecue sauce is the style of barbecue that they have in their community. Texas barbecue is different than Memphis, which is different than St. Louis. And so we try to tie those special flavors into our menu, and do the same with the opposite. We'll bring in things like craft brews from the local community. Like in Houston, we have a restaurant down there that ties in a local ice cream brand, and that helps sort of engage people. We've created a little bit of a sort of a lounge atmosphere for like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night kind of thing. It depends on the type of community that they're in, where that can be accepted or not. But it's just off the charts. It's engaging. It's fun. People come. Their length of stay is longer. I think I can share this. It's so our typical average ticket price before COVID was $12.85 per person. And when we introduced, this was one of the stores that opened sort of right in the front end of that, and their per ticket price has shot up to over $18 per person. So it's $18 to $22 per person, and that 18 to 22 range is because it depends on the day part or the time of day when they buy, because typically later in the day they'll add that beer to their menu, to their menu or their ticket. So anyway, that's sort of the menu in a snapshot. It is simple. It's simple for the model. It's simple for your labor. I think, sort of tying back to that misnomer about food, or maybe not even a misnomer. There are some models where there are a lot of people, a lot of labor involved. There are only two to three people at the most working at any given time. And a couple of different day parts, depends on the type of model that people get into. We work really well around universities. We work really well around mixed retail and residential. We work really well in a freestanding space with a drive-through. I mean, think about what we are walking through right now. People don't want to get out of their cars. For those models that have had that ability, we've done very, very well. So there's that. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the origin. We started as a food truck. This was that little food truck that we began back in 2014. Jonathan and Josh, they're both over 6 feet tall, so you can imagine them hunched over in the middle of that thing. But it was totally.
Are Jonathan and Josh two of the gentlemen that are featured on that video on your website, on the Chicken Cone
Yes.
website?
Yes.
They seem like, I was going to ask you when you were talking about them earlier, it seems like the coolest crew. I mean, this is your leadership team, and I'm like, you want to go for coffee?
I know.
I mean, it just seems so cool.
They really are. And everyone on the team has a beard but me. So it's, it's just sort of laid back but I will say this, they're very assertive men too. They're very supportive. They're on the spot. They do travel. They're family oriented. It's, like I said, their head and their heart are in the right place. And you're right. You picked up, your pickup was completely accurate, in that video. And they shot that video too, by the way. So they're very artistic as well. This is that chicken cone, by the way, that I was telling you about. That's off the menu.
That looks good.
Yeah, it's a macaroni and cheese chicken cone. It's got a little siracha on top. It's got a little bit of sriracha in the waffle itself. So it's kind of layered and rich and spicy and sweet. And, it's got everything going on to cover the palate. It's wonderful.
Oh my gosh. And who are these gentlemen on the right?
So this was our first franchisee was in Dubai. We opened the New York City location, and within a couple of months, Abdullah contacted us by way of social media. He's never been to the United States. And he said, I've seen this brand. I see the concept. I want to open one here. We actually flew there and we trained him, and we sourced everything out. We did everything there. He was our first franchisee. The first franchisee in the US is Henry, and he's in Fort Collins, right outside of Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
And he has, again, sort of speaking to the versatility of the model of the space, he has what's called an adapted shipping container that has been adapted to food service unit. And so he's got actually like two of them. They're stacked on top of each other. So he's got a really cool concept. And
that's cool.
Yeah, and he's done very well too. He's in sort of a food court environment, and he's developed his own sort of culture following. He's opening another location as well in Denver. And that's the other thing. Almost every one of our franchisees, actually every one of our franchisees has opened a location. They're opening other locations. They all have multi-unit agreements. It's imagine with $100,000 to $100,000 barrier to entry. It's a very easy concept to engage in or to embrace. So that's how our first franchisee came about. With that franchise system, you expect a few things. Our real estate team will find a location for the franchisee. We have all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment ready. Training, as it's actually about a 3 or 4 day training period where we actually bring them into one of our restaurants and work with them, not only just on the model, but on their business and how they plan on growing. We'll do that, and then we'll go to the franchisee's location once they've opened, before, during, and after the grand opening. I think that's one of the most amazing things we do, because there's a lot that happens before. We try to keep the franchisee sort of freed up to make decisions and move about and be flexible. So we work with the team a lot during that time, and we train the team, and we educate them on what to expect, and so we work with them on the grand opening, and then after the grand opening, we stick around and we do a sort of a debrief, and we sort of work on things that might need to be worked on too. So there's a really team aspect to all of this. On the marketing side, I talked a lot about social media. We push content up for all of our franchisees. We have a marketing feed. We haven't charged any of our franchisees for that as of yet. We're trying to sort of achieve a critical mass. Right now we have 11 locations open, and we have another 24 that are under development, I believe, 25 actually. And those that's just a way for us to sort of put our money where our mouth is as well. We do service or serve our franchisees, and we do it in a way that's, there is a saying, we don't succeed unless you succeed, and we hear that in franchising, but we really put action to that. And I think that's, again, sort of a testament to the gentlemen that are leading this team. And then we have another team member, Aaron Havens, who's part of our team as well. And he's created an ongoing, it's a coaching system, but it's really a development system to help people continue to grow and retool and refocus and reinvest and do a lot of things that we as business owners, we may know a little bit about, but it sort of helps them continue to succeed. The versatility of the location is really, I think that's paramount to this model, and one of the main reasons why I think it's really successful. What you would have in New York City, that 300 square foot space, you might call it a food court situation. There's a tremendous amount of foot traffic going by that every single day. The sort of retail traditional inline space that we all know, it's sort of a strip mall center, and there's someone on the right or someone on the left, or if you're fortunate enough, and we really are right now, and I'll speak a little bit to this, this COVID situation has freed up a lot of real estate for a lot of people. And I mentioned we've signed leases during this. We're in 3 or 4 spaces right now that we would not have been in, had this not occurred. We're in caps, and we're at the University of Texas. We're right on the campus. We're right into some really creative spots in other places too that have given us a lot of opportunity. And I say that with great respect to what everyone's walking through, and we know what produced those conditions. But in a sense, it's freed up a lot of real estate for people that are progressively, that are sort of moving forward. And maybe those people were struggling before. I don't know, but it's given us a huge window of opportunity for us to really help our franchisees get into some amazing locations. When we begin working with our candidates, we start talking with people about what your management style is, what you'd like to. Key point about this, FranNet provides us with this wonderful assessment tool, and it gives us a lot of opportunity to understand the candidate and their tendencies. I talked a little bit about that with me, how I came into the industry. It helped others working with me, and what it does for us, this assessment profile gives us an opportunity to understand, what the mindset, what the tendency, what the adaptive style, everything that would want to know about a candidate before we start working with them. So we can actually kind of speak to how they listen. We can speak to what they're listening for, and we can sort of I'll say adapt our channel of information to what they're listening for and how they're doing it. And that's really helped a lot. And that's a proprietary thing, I think, with FranNet. And it's it does change the type of conversation I have when I'm working with someone who's, we'll call them an organic candidate, and they don't have that information. It's really a little bit of a crapshoot, when you think about it. It's just a sort of a random approach of how do I have to take the time to almost guesstimate in a way, how I'm going to work with this candidate. And so when I have that, I'm working with FranNet. It's an amazing tool that I have. So,
yeah, I'm a fan of it. I love just understanding, hey, this is what matters most to this person, and can those values and those things that are of the utmost importance to them, can those things be met in any business that we're looking at? So I appreciate what you say.
Well, I mean, it also gives us an opportunity. I know that when a candidate has been referred to us, they understand a little bit about the business, but this does speak to something that they want in their lives. Like you just said something about values and what's important to them. That's I don't say it's half the battle. It's actually almost all of it. People aren't looking for necessarily a dollar figure. They're looking for something to solve something in their lives, whatever that is, whether it's a lifestyle, time at home with their family. That's one of the things that Jonathan and Josh created this business for.
Yeah.
And so,
that makes sense. You said they started as like an absentee business to free them up elsewhere.
They did. They did. And that's how that food truck, briefly served that purpose. And then it became super successful, and they realized, okay, we've got to grow. We've got to adapt. And so they did. And so the model that's been created, and I know I've said this a couple of times, but it is such a low barrier to entry that people are, that becomes a non-issue at that point. When you think about what are the barriers for a business, does it fall within my budget? And does it, is the time allotment, the requirement that I have to give or invest, does that fit the bill too? And then, and then we think of, is it a quality of life? Do I really, there are people that love chicken and waffles, but do they want to be making chicken and waffles? They may not. And that's why this works as someone, if they want to be in the operation every day, if they want to pay someone to be in that operation and manage them, or if they want to pay someone to manage that person in the operation.
I love versatility and flexibility with this brand. And one thing I noticed, and I don't, before we get into the numbers, I don't know if this is just because the photos aren't showing it, but I'm not seeing utensils. I'm not seeing big to-go containers. I'm not seeing any styrofoam. I'm not seeing packaging and waste.
Yes, and that's it's fork-free chicken and waffles. It sort of feeds into the hands-free concept as well. We do offer a tiny little wooden prong fork that we just sort of pop in the top of it if people want to just pick at it as they go. But it's designed for you to eat the chicken and in the cone simultaneously down to nothing. So think about it. It's food on the go, and you're right. I love the part about not the packaging. We do have. So for delivery, we do have a package for that, but it's basically a clamshell. It's made of biodegradable materials. It's all it's sort of a healthy concept as you can produce for that. And so, but yes, you're right. it's food on the go, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful way to deliver it.
That's
Um,
excellent.
yeah. And it's chicken and waffles. So when you talk about margins, it's a low cost item. We'll talk about the numbers now if you want. I mean, I can show you a little bit about the model, and this is probably the part that I would focus most on. This is just sort of a total investment. The initial investment range for this model is between 102 to 194,000, but the sweet spot is really between 100 and 150. We don't really have a model actually that hits that mark of 194. It's just, that's one with all the bells and whistles. But we're about low barrier to entry. Get in for the, you don't need those bells and whistles. You don't need a large space. This is, I know I talk about the 300 square feet, but the typical spot's going to come in somewhere between 750 and 950 square feet. It's a really sort of manageable space. You can have some seating if you want, if there's seating outside, and we have that now, right? That's very important for us to have. We have a sort of an outdoor and very evenly spaced out space for people to come in and eat. But when you're pork-free chicken and waffles and you can go, people love walking up to the counter, grabbing their food and going. And the owners really love these numbers because these are pretty true to form numbers. This is the item 19. This is these are the performance numbers for the New York City location. And everyone's going to say, because I hear this a lot, yes, but my location, my area is different. Every location that we install introduce into a community is introduced with this formula. It is, we look for a space and we understand, we do an extensive research or an extensive amount of research on the area, not only demographics, but the buying patterns of people, and we try to understand the personality of the community so that when we get in there, we have a general idea of where we're going to go with the numbers of that model. This is the number that we go into each community, and we try to find a space that's going to produce that formula that's going to be consistent with this model. So therefore, I direct people towards these percentages. And I say, the cost of goods, including paper, including that packaging that you were talking about or lack thereof, is 30%. Labor's at 18. Operational costs, that's 24%, but that includes that. In New York City, it's about 14%, which can be a little bit on the high side for occupancy costs, for rent and everything, but they don't pay, they don't pay a lot for marketing. They have marketing walking past their door, 40, 50,000 times a day. So it's not really, there's some things that sort of offset that, right? And so there's about 10% in this 24% that's all, it's just miscellaneous costs. It's utilities and things of that nature. The royalty is a 6% royalty fee. And again, that 2% is actually the 2% that we have yet to charge our franchisees, and for the foreseeable future won't be. We'll probably hit that critical mass somewhere between 40 and 50 locations. We won't hit that number for another 18 months I'd say the earliest. And typically it doesn't take but about 3 to 6 months to open a location. And so, I know I said there are 25 locations that are under development. They're all going to be, sort of staggered at different stages of growth and development. Some of those are second units for the initial locations that franchisees open. So it's, we've got a very wonderful, even paced growth and development plan and projection for our brand. I think one of the most important things that we can say to our franchisees is that, when you invest in our brand, we will not only get your location open, which is a big deal, but we'll get it, we'll do everything we can to make it as successful as the locations before. And so far it's been 100% successful. So
let me see if I understand this correctly. Average 150K investment for a potentially semi-absentee business that can be open in 3 to 6 months with 20% margins.
That's it. I know. It's and it's, and you can eat some of the profits too. That's the fun part.
This is fantastic. I mean, congratulations on the success and the growth, even during crazy times like COVID.
Right.
And thank you for the transparency, because, you know, oftentimes a lot of my clients are like, just give me the FDD so I can see the numbers. And
Right.
there's so much more to that. But I just appreciate, you know, the candor and the transparency, because that's what people want to see to help.
Yeah.
You
Well, I mean, I try to approach it like, how I would like to see it too. I mean, I mentioned that I
Right.
was a franchisee. I think that's probably one of the greatest gifts that have been bestowed upon me, has been, that perspective. And I think it's just, I try to approach everything that way, so that, you know, I wasn't equipped with everything when I had that model at all. And I would dare say that model was probably even ready to launch on the other side of the country. But, we did it, and we sort of pulled the pieces together. Now I work with brands, or in my path, I have worked with brands that are prepared to do that, and they're ready to actually make that jump into franchising. We've done it a number of times. I know our brand we're very well equipped to do that, but it really does help to know that people have gone before and have been successful, and that we can do that too. So.
Well, I really want to go eat at a chicken cone. I
Absolutely.
don't
We'd
know
love
what
to
they
have you.
eat, but I'll have I'd indulge. Heck yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's dangerous when I make trips to our location.
Occupational hazard.
Absolutely. I'll take it though. It's all good.
Right. Well, God, thank you so much for your time and your insights and providing so much information.
Well,
Yeah,
Emily, thank you. And I really can't say it enough how much I really appreciate you and FranNet, and just, it's really helped us grow. I mean, of those locations that I shared that we've grown in the midst of COVID, I'd say actually, I think all but one are FranNet. So
wow.
it's really been a testament to the work that you and FranNet do. And again, sort of coming back to those tools that you provide us with, it's really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for saying that. We are so selective about the brands that we bring on. So when we bring on a food concept, and that food concept has somebody like you with all your experience, firsthand knowledge, master development, that says like, okay, well, if Chris sees something in chicken cone and FranNet sees something in chicken cone, like, I got to learn about this brand. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Hey,
you.
stay well, be well.
Thank
And
you.
I hope we'll be working together very soon.
That'd be great. We'd love
All
that.
right.
Thank you so much. Take
Take
care.
care. Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.